I'm Carol.fahy, professional realtor here in the state of Delaware. Getting ready to talk to Greg. We're going to be talking market updates and mortgages. What's going on, how you qualify, and what you should be looking out for right now. A good holiday weekend.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my husband got to use the grill, so he's he's a grill man. He's ecstatic getting to use the grill.
Great weekend for it.
Definitely was. It was absolutely beautiful. Now, as you can hear, I got the sirens in the background. I'm very close to the firehouse. Okay, so we're live. So we're here today with Greg, and we're talking about market updates with the mortgages. We're talking about real estate. We're going to probably dive in a little bit to Delaware reopening and what that might look like in the marketplace for us. So, yeah, let's get to it. What's going on in the wonderful world of mortgages?
Yeah, I appreciate, Carol, you having me on. A lot of good things these days. I certainly, the pandemic has really changed the way that we've done things, professionally, obviously. One of the byproducts of that is that we have a low interest rate environment. So, I don't want to make light of a bad situation. Obviously, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, as it is to all of us. But at the same time, something that's positive that's come out of that is the mortgage market itself. And, right now we are seeing refinances of home loans almost at an all-time high. And we expect that to continue. But as more and more Americans get back to work, as some of these restrictions are eased or lifted, we do expect that rates will go up here soon. So I guess that's a long-winded way of me saying that refinance activity is really high right now, but I don't know that it's going to last forever. So if you haven't refinanced your mortgage yet, it's something you should certainly look into.
Absolutely. How much do you think somebody might be able to save if they started refinancing right now? Like, what does a quarter point look like on a 30-year mortgage?
Yeah, great question, Carol. So, I mean, it's economies of scale naturally. That will be different for somebody that's borrowing at 100,000 versus 300,000 as an example. But the general rule of thumb is that when you're comparing apples to apples, meaning if you're refinancing from one 30-year to another, as an example, you would generally want to save about 3/4 to a full point rather, on your mortgage rate. Now, that's not a one size fits all. That might not be applicable to somebody that's at 100 grand mortgage, but maybe more so for somebody at 250. But that's the general rule of thumb. If you're refinancing to a shorter term from 30 to 20 years, as an example, which is much more prevalent right now, it doesn't always apply. Sometimes that savings can be a little bit less, but the idea in mind is obviously to shorten the overall term on your mortgage, which will not only save you money monthly, but it's going to shave down your term of the mortgage. And ultimately, what most people don't see is it's going to save you tens of thousands and sometimes even in six figures interest that you're going to pay over the term of the mortgage.
The first time, I think we talked about this once before, the first time I bought a house and I saw the amount of interest that I was going to pay over that loan, I nearly fell out of the chair. It is staggering how much money it is. So when you say you can save thousands upon thousands, I hope everybody can kind of grasp what that means over 30 years. That's the difference of big vacations versus little vacations or no vacations, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's trusting your mortgage professional, whether you're working with me or somebody else. What I will tell you is that we've turned over about 90% of our pipeline and have our existing clients being refinanced, which is awesome. Sadly, there's that 10% that thinks there's a catch, if you will, or they're just simply not engaged in the process, whether they're just busy or whatnot. And all of us are busy, and I tell people that all the time, but you kind of have to make that a priority, because ultimately, if you're going to stay in your home, especially a long time, this is game changing. This is something that will accelerate your retirement, your ability to pay off your house sooner. Most people see just the rate and the monthly payment, and of course that's very important. But I think really the biggest goal is to really reduce that interest on the back end of the mortgage. And as we just discussed, a lot of times that approaches six figures, especially if you're in a higher loan amount.
Yeah, I was just looking at a chart that was showing the interest rates over the years. And I'm always befuddled when I see that. I think it was in the 90s, interest rates were like 12% on a house. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine what that must have equated to over the years. And now I look at them today and they're record lows.
Record lows. And, it's really been a pathway for a lot of folks to really, ease their monthly burden, obviously, on the mortgage payment, as we just discussed. But just really, accelerating your timeline to retirement, accelerating your ability to pay that mortgage off. Interest rates are very compelling. And the math doesn't lie. If you're at a fixed rate mortgage, that payment's going to stay the same for the entire term of the mortgage. And if it makes sense, then ultimately it's certainly something that you should green light. And for the folks out there listening to this call, if you have not done that yet, now's the time. Most economists believe that as more and more people go back to work due to the restrictions being lifted with COVID, naturally unemployment should drop. And when that happens, usually the economy improves, and
Starts to pick up.
an improved economy equals higher rates. So none of us want a bad economy naturally, but at the same time, when the economy is down, rates do go down, and that could be a benefit to most of our clients.
And if you can take advantage of it, you really should. So what would you say because I think that there are some people, like you said, who might be just unengaged, but I think there are also a portion of people who think it's a much harder process than it actually is. What's actually involved in refinancing your house?
Yeah, that's a great question, Carol. And to be honest with you, it's never been easier than it is right now. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you have an existing FHA mortgage and you're looking to refinance to another FHA mortgage, they have what's known as a streamlined refinance, Carol. So basically what that means is that you do not have to get an appraisal of the home. You do not have to prove income. So you're not providing W-2s, you're not providing pay stubs or tax returns, hence the word streamline. It's a very, very easy process to do to refinance from one FHA loan to another.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really, really cool. On the conventional side, which is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they just introduced what's known as the appraisal waiver about 6 months ago. And we're hitting on that about 80% of the time. So we put an evaluation of someone's home that we feel like it's worth. The system either accepts it or rejects it, the search engine that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac uses. But overwhelmingly, we're finding that we're getting appraisal waivers so long as we're in the ballpark, which saves people $500 on the cost of the appraisal.
Yes.
It really eases your concerns about perhaps having an appraiser come into your home and lowballing the valuation on your home and things of that nature. So to answer your question, documentation, it is a documentation heavy business, and there's certainly things you'll have to provide. But at the end of the day, it's never been easier than it is today.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. I would like to touch on the document, heavy business. I've recently had a few conversations where it's become apparent that some people don't understand what's involved in a pre-approval process for their home. So if you have a new person, contact me and they say, hey, I never bought a home before, what's the first step? The first step is always go get your pre-approval from the lender. Can you walk us through the pre-approval process and what documents they should have in order?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So Carol, whenever someone refers a client to me, we take an introductory exploratory call, we call it, and we just get better acquainted and kind of just with broad strokes kind of go over what the expectation should be. After that exploratory call, we will send an email out to that client that's bullet pointed, letting them know exactly what they need for pre-approval. In a nutshell, it's different for everybody, but some of the main things that you're going to see consistent amongst all pre-approval requirements are 2 years of W-2s. If you're self-employed, that would equate to 2 years of tax returns, 30 days pay stubs, your driver's license, and really that's it. Now, as we move forward, of course, and you find a home, we'll have to fill in some of the gaps there, but you only need 3 or 4 things to kind of open up the door for you to get pre-approved for a mortgage. And you and I had a conversation last month on Facebook Live, and I had said this then, and I'm going to say it again now. The earlier you do that, the better off you're going to be, because we can certainly plan that process out for you. And by collecting those documentation, once we pull credit, if there's any challenges out there, at least it gives us time to kind of correct those and ultimately make you a better and more approved buyer.
Yeah. So, so I think that some people are not aware of the fact that a pre-approval letter is not a mortgage commitment.
Correct. So,
yeah, fill in the gap for us.
I'm sorry, you broke up there. I didn't mean to interrupt you. The Facebook Live kind of skipped on me a second there.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You just paused for a second. It kind of threw me off. But you're exactly right. I mean, the pre-approval is get your foot in the door. So it lets the seller know that you've been properly vetted out as far as your income is concerned, as far as a credit pull and so forth. But you're right. It's not a commitment to lend. Okay. Now, it gets your foot in the door. It allows you to make an offer on a property. And subsequently, if that offer gets accepted, your loan then goes to an underwriter. Okay. The underwriter will review that file, make sure that they agree with everything the loan officer presented and put in front of them. And ultimately, so long as they agree with that, then they issue what's known as a mortgage loan commitment, which is a commitment to lend so long as nothing catastrophic happens, such as job loss or something like that. So the pre-approval is not a commitment, but the way we do it, we get everything up front. So our pre-approvals are golden. Unless you're going to unless something catastrophic happens, as I just mentioned, or something self-inflicted happens, like someone's credit goes down because they miss a car payment or something along those lines, you can consider a pre-approval good as gold when you're moving forward to look at a home.
Perfect. And so real quick, I just would like to touch a little bit on the real estate market for anybody who's thinking about buying or selling your home right now. We've been operating on a low inventory in Delaware, I want to say for almost a year now. And it seems like it's not getting any better, even through the pandemic. Because now everybody's home, right? So everybody's looking around their house and they're going, this house is too big, it's too small, it's too round, it's too square, it doesn't have a garage, it's got too big of a garage. And they're going, get me out of this house just because they want to get out of it. So we are finding there are buyers that are coming out, and we're still taking new listings on the market. We had in the last week, 215 new houses have been put to market, and over 40 have been listed that they're coming to market. And we're still operating on a low inventory. So if you're thinking about selling, please contact us because we need your house. But if you're a buyer, Greg will give you a great interest rate, and I can help you look at what's out there and, put you into that bigger home, smaller home, more bathrooms, less bathrooms, whatever you're looking around thinking you need right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no time better than to be a seller. I mean, for all the reasons you just mentioned. I mean, inventory is almost at an all-time low. That means there's more buyers than sellers, which puts you in the enviable position of commanding top dollar for your home.
Yeah.
And, what we're seeing right now, Carol, and I know you can attest to this, is that more multiple offer situations.
Multiple offer situations.
Yeah,
And
so it's crazy.
For those who don't know, like internal documents in the industry, we have what's called an escalation clause. We're seeing a lot of offers come through with these escalation clauses, or we're writing offers with escalation clauses because the realtors are letting us know, we got to have all offers in by this time because the seller wants to make a decision, and we have multiple offers he has to go through or she has to go through. So multiple offer situations have definitely ensured that it's a seller's market. It's going to continue to be a seller's market because there's that many buyers looking at every house, putting offers in on it, and they're selling. Like, you see a house on the market, I had one client, she was like, but it was just on the market yesterday and it was sold. And I was like, and it's like over asking price because it's a little bidding war going on. And it was literally like 12 hours sold.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
like, but I didn't even, I'm like,
and because of that, I share with my buyers that, you have to be ready to strike. It's a fine line because it's a big decision naturally for the client. And you never want to tip somebody over or feel like you're putting the full court press on them, so to speak. But at the same time, given current market conditions, you really do have to make a move quickly if you find something that you like.
Yeah.
And more so than ever, you have to make sure that your offer is realistic.
You have to be competitive.
Exactly. Right now, I still see a lot of clients that want to put an offer in at 180 on a $200,000 house. We're just not there right now.
It's not that market.
Exactly. If anything, and you could probably answer this question better than I could, but if anything, what I'm seeing personally is more offers that are going in above asking versus below asking. When have we ever seen that before, right? So
I'll tell you, and it's not just one or two, it's like every single offer. So you got like these, it's like who can put an escalation clause in that goes the highest. That's right. What it comes down to. And I had to caution one client because they wanted to go to a certain number. And I said, I understand, but you have to be mindful of the fact that you don't want to overpay. Like, so then you're walking that fine line and you're trying to guide them through, that might be the house, but you also want to be cautious. What is the value of the house?
That's right.
And there are there are some people with the school of thought that the value is what somebody's willing to pay. Well, I think the appraiser might have a different point of view on that because he's going to be looking at the other stuff in the house. So, and that's not an easy conversation, when you're trying to explain, like, I know you love this house, but going 25,000 over asking is probably not a good
idea. Right. And just to further expound upon what an escalation clause is for those folks out there that don't know, if you have a house that's listed at 200,000, you can go ahead and do what's known as an escalation clause up to 205,000, basically, which more or less means that if the seller can prove that they have an offer over 200,000, then your escalation clause will kick in. So if you offer an escalation clause up to 205, using that example, it doesn't mean you're going to pay 205 for that house. Right. It means you're willing to do that if there's other competitors that are looking at that house that are going above 200,000. So.
And there's even a clause in there in the escalation clause. There's a spot where you can pick the monetary increment you want to go up in. So I normally do a $500 increment. So, and that's absolutely correct. The realtor with the selling property has to show me an offer that was $500 less than my clients to prove that that's why the escalation clause went into play, because otherwise it doesn't go into play. So you're not overpaying, but you're putting yourself in a position to not get outbid by somebody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of people are,
Crazy.
scared of that, because they'll say, well, what if I pay 203 for this house versus 200? They feel like their monthly payment might get out of whack. And the reality is this: $1,000 is a lot of money to you. It's a lot of money to myself. But over 30 years, it's really a drop in the bucket. And for every $1,000 that you finance on a 30-year mortgage, it's only the difference of $5.50 a month to your payment. So I'll tell people, hey, if you offer 203 on a $200,000 house, your payment's only changing about $16, $17 a month. Do you really want to lose the home of your dreams over that little amount of money?
Over $17.
Exactly. I don't mean to dismiss it. We certainly want to save our clients as much money as we can. That is always paramount.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you want something, especially in this market, sometimes you have to go up and get it. And
I'll tell you, I know you've been in retail a long time too. I've been in retail a very long time. I have never had a client come back to me mad that they paid a little bit more for what they wanted.
that's right.
But I have time and time again had them come back and say, I wish I had.
I hear it all the time.
All the time.
I think sometimes, people have to kind of get burnt once and kind of see how it works. It's unfortunate. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone get upset or lose the home that they really want. But you're right, Carol. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, I just wish I'd offered $2,000 more in this house. I'd have been living in it right now. I'd be totally happy. My kids would have their own bedroom. We'd have a fence in the backyard, whatever it may be.
And it would have been $10 more a month. I wouldn't have even noticed that $10.
Exactly.
Like honestly, let's call it what it is. Pick 2 days a month where you didn't go to Starbucks. There's your $10.
There it is. Exactly. And
it's very simple.
Exactly. It really is. And we counsel all of our realtors, which of course they're pretty well versed in it because that's what you do for a living. But more so, we counsel all of our clients on the importance of that. That doesn't mean that every house is going to have an escalation clause. I think what most people are going to find is that the shorter amount of time a house has been on the market, the more likely it is to receive multiple offers naturally. So if a house has only been on the market a day, 2 days, a week, whatever, it's more likely to have multiple offer situations because it's new to the market, right? And because of that, we tend to see more escalation clauses in those situations versus homes that might have been on the market.
And I'll tell you, it's the houses that are move-in ready.
That's right. That's exactly
because the buyers don't have to do anything. They can move in, they can unpack, and they can start living. They don't have to worry about painting and new floors and, remodeling a bathroom. It's all done.
That's correct.
So from a realtor who's also helping people sell their properties, that's a conversation I'm having. Like invest a little bit and this house is going to snap gone. But if you don't, and a buyer potentially has to worry about these things, it could sit on the market a little longer. Does that mean it won't sell? Of course not. It just means it's not going to sell in the first 48 hours,
That's
and
correct.
These are conversations we're having regularly now. It's insane. I have one client who is struggling to get a contractor because everybody's busy. Everybody's busy. And I'm like, man, so we're trying to, we're waiting it out. And it's like, we're finally ready. So we'll be on market next week. She's excited to see what happens now that everything's done.
Sure. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see, where things go once things open up.
I think that's the $1 million question right now. I agree with you. It's consistently inconsistent right now. That's really the only way to say it. And we're experiencing something that we haven't experienced since the Great Depression. So there's really there's nothing to draw from past experience. I don't know that anyone was alive that I know back in the Great Depression, right? So with that in mind, I agree with you, Carol. I personally believe, and I could be wrong here, I certainly don't hold a crystal ball, but I personally believe, and I kind of mentioned this earlier in the call, that as more and more Americans get back to work, I really believe that interest rates will start to tick up. And that's going to create more of a frenzy, I think, maybe towards the middle to the end of this summer, because people want to get in as cheap as they can. They want to get their kids enrolled in school, be in a new home, and things like that. But we could have this conversation 3 months from now, Carol, and I might totally retract what I just told you and tell you something different. It's never been like this, and it's hard to kind of gauge where we're going right now.
You know what? I want to put that on the calendar for 3 months to come back and revisit these topics and be like, oh man, we were way off, or wow, look at that. We hit it on the nose.
I'll be there. I promise you.
Yeah. Right. So, is there anything else that's going on in the wonderful market world that we maybe should know about? Like
You know
how's
what?
FHA's programs doing? How's DHSA's programs doing? Anything new? Anything developing?
Great question, and I'm glad you asked. There's a number of different loan programs out there, and I still get the call at least once a week from somebody randomly that thinks they have to put 20% down on a home, and that's the Leave It to Beaver age when
Yes.
back in the 70s when people put 20% down on every home and so forth. We're just not there right now. So I'll touch on a couple of the loan programs out there, Carol, that
Okay.
you mentioned, and of course I'll add a couple others as well.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. So the first is the DSHA. That's an acronym for Delaware State Housing Authority. That's something that's offered through the state of Delaware. You can secure up to 100% financing on your loan. So if you don't have any money or very minimal money to put down, as long as you fit a certain criteria, which basically is a credit score above a 620 and your income has to be below the average median income, which is different per county, then you're going to qualify. And overwhelmingly, most people qualify for that. And contrary to what most people believe, it's not just for first-time home buyers. So long as you fit the criteria with regards to income and credit, you do not have to be a first-time home buyer. So that's a really great program. It's 100% financing. The one drawback is the rates are a little higher. If you don't have any skin in the game, you're going to have a higher rate. So if we know someone to have enough money for a down payment, we still encourage that route versus the Delaware State Housing Authority. But the reality is not everyone has that. And, the Delaware State Housing Authority is a great alternative to being a renter, obviously.
Anything's a better alternative than being a renter if you can do it.
Anything.
So
Why pay someone else's mortgage when you can pay your own, right? So
exactly. And because either way you're paying a mortgage. That's like, that's the one thing I think some people don't realize. Either way you're paying a mortgage. Question is, do you want to pay your mortgage or that guy's mortgage?
that's
I
right.
want to pay my mortgage,
That's exactly right.
So here's a question. So the rate's a little bit higher for DHSA. Is there a penalty, say a year and a half from now, rates are super low again? Can you refinance that and get that rate down and then kind of have the best of both worlds?
You certainly could do that. There's no penalty to doing that. So when you do a Delaware State Housing Authority loan, it's two loans. Okay. So you're doing your main loan and then you're doing a second loan to help with your down payment and or closing costs. The only challenge is there's no penalty in refinancing, but because you're buying the home at 100%, you have to make sure you have enough of an equity position down the road to include both loans.
Okay.
Really the only challenge we see, because sometimes that can take upwards of 3 to 5 years to realize that equity position. But to answer your question, no, there are no barriers. That is, a lot of people will take that loan out and refinance it down the road so long as they're able.
And now you answered my question. I was going to say, is there like a threshold where it usually starts getting where you can do it without it being an issue? You're saying 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one size fits all. I mean, certain pockets of areas will have higher appreciation than others. So it just really depends on where you live, what the comparables in your neighborhood are doing, which basically means what the other homes are worth that have recently sold. So we keep an eye on that. We have simulators that will kind of tee us up to call people. We go on offense and we proactively reach out to see if we can help. And but yeah, so it's some people are more challenging than the others, but it's usually about 3 to 5 years.
Okay. I like that you do follow up 3 to 5 years later, because sometimes you get, you know how it is. You're living life, you forgot it's been 5 years because that time goes fast.
It goes really fast.
And the next thing you know, you're on my phone. You're like, hey, buddy, it's time to refinance. And you're like, has it been 5 years?
Exactly right. And the power of refinance is so very strong. Not to belabor the point, but most of our clients have taken advantage of that, and sadly some haven't. A lot of folks will tend to believe there's a catch, as I mentioned before, or they just don't see the real benefit. One comes to mind. I have a client that has a $400,000 mortgage and a 5.25% rate, and they haven't refinanced. It's a shame. We try to help them. But you don't want to tip somebody over, right? It's ultimately their decision to make. But I'm here to tell you, as any loan officer will, that there is no catch. As long as you qualify and you take on the lower rate, it's definitely a green light and something worth doing.
My brain inside is going, oh my God, $400,000 at 5.25%.
Yeah, so, I mean the savings is $400 a month, and the interest savings is over $175,000. It's just appalling. In a good way on how how eye-opening, I should probably say, not appalling, but eye-opening how much of a savings there really is. So definitely research that if you have not yet refinanced your current home mortgage, especially if your rate's 4% or higher.
Yeah, I'm under the 4% mark, so
You and I both.
I've been here almost 11 years now. So I'll tell you what I wish I had done, and I'll share this with the world. I wish I had did a 15-year mortgage. Hindsight, boy, it's always 2020. At the time, you're like, it's a couple $100 more a month, but honestly, it wouldn't have stopped me from living life. And I would have been a couple years from paying my house off. I would have been done.
Yeah.
So, it just, 15 years seems as far as 30 years when you're thinking about it. But the fact of the matter is blink and I'm here. So if anybody can afford it, if it's in your budget, I highly, highly recommend. If you can do a 15-year, man, do it, because I would have been done. I would have been done.
Yeah, and the lower the term, the lower the interest you pay, not just in the interest rate, but the interest itself over the time. And that's why there's such staggering savings when you go from 30 to 15 or 30 to 20 years.
Right.
But the opportunity still exists from 30 to 30 years. If you're dropping a full point or more, it's really something you should do. And
Yeah.
you made a really good analogy earlier. You said, it's a couple less times a month at Starbucks, or maybe one less $100 dinner a month,
Yep.
really can accomplish that goal. And it's tough because I know, like anyone, I'm busy too, and sometimes it's hard to kind of project out that far, especially when you have the demands of family and friends and career. But believe me, it's something that will continue to pay dividends over the course of your life. And if you're a candidate to do it, you really should.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could sing that from the rooftops, because and I think it's one of those things, like, it's not in your face every day, so you're not thinking about that number, right?
Right.
But if we took a Post-it and we put that number right here, you you would get more phone calls than you'd be able to handle, because everybody would be like, oh my God, how much can I save? Like, I feel like it would just up the ante for everything.
It really does. And, we're a purchase focused shop, because buying homes is a sustainable business model, obviously. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you had these refi shops that would come and go with
Yeah.
rising interest rate markets. But at the same time, it's been a huge focus of ours, just, especially now, while people aren't looking at homes as often because of COVID. And we're working, 7 in the morning to 9 at night. And I'm happy to do that, because I know that I'm providing a valuable service, and all of my peers, not just within my company, but other branches across Delaware. We're really providing that service to really help people, not just short term, but more so long term as well. So trust your loan officer, whether it's me or someone else. There really is no catch. Most times, and more times than not, you can roll your costs into the mortgage itself.
Mhm.
And most of my clients are refinancing with little or no money out of pocket.
Man, that's perfect. Wow, man, I'll tell you, I just love to. I feel like time flies when we talk.
I love it. I mean, when you're having a good conversation, and I can talk, and I know you enjoy talking as well, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But it's just so powerful. And I know you're like me, Carol. We love to help people, and whether it's
Yes.
buying a home on your end or refinancing a home on my end, we're here to help. And when you have the right professionals in your corner, and you have people out there that are looking out for your best interest, it's really a powerful tool. And we're leaders, and we want to lead our clients to the end game, and the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak.
Right.
So I really think this opportunity will remain for probably another 4 to 6 weeks. It could be longer. Again, I've been wrong before, but
You've been wrong. Never.
these days, Carol, I feel like a weatherman, right? Because everything is so shifty. I wish I got paid to be wrong. I don't, so I try to be right more
Be a
times.
weatherman. Like, could you imagine the only career in the world where you could literally be wrong every day and it's okay?
I'll tell you this much on a personal note. I'm glad I didn't listen last weekend. I went down to the beach last weekend for Memorial Day, and I was expecting rain all weekend, but it was sunny until Sunday. So
Funny and beautiful.
yeah,
And nobody was mad. Everybody was like, oh, thank God the weatherman was wrong.
absolutely. And of course, when they're right, then of course, they're patting themselves on the backs. But no, we love our weatherman. We're just having fun here.
Yeah, we love our weather people.
Exactly.
See, I don't say weatherman. I say weather people. We're women and men. We love our weather givers. We're just joshing.
And one thing I want to mention, only because I don't want to forget, we had talked about loan programs out there, and we covered Delaware State Housing Authority. Not everyone, Carol, is a candidate for that. There are some restrictions there. You would ask the question about FHA loans and conventional loans and so forth. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to run down the list pretty quickly.
Would love that.
I'm going to give you the crash course, the 30,000 foot view, I call it. There's a lot more that's going to go into it than what I'm going to tell you, but I'm just going to give you the broad strokes. So with FHA loan, 3.5% down is the minimum. Okay, so that's something that we try to take clients to if they can't go Delaware State Housing Authority, but maybe their credit's less than perfect, which is what FHA tends to cater to. Conventional loan, which is Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, is more so for higher FICO individuals, usually above 700 credit score or so. A 3% down payment, Carol, is the minimum if you're a first-time home buyer, and 5% if you're not. There's also VA loans, which are very, very popular. I do a ton of VA loans in Dover, as of course the Air Force Base is there. I also do a lot of business in Maryland at the Aberdeen Proving Ground. So if you're a VA candidate, it's 100% financing. And on top of that, there's no PMI for a veteran borrower. You can use your VA more than once. A lot of times veterans will come to me and say, I wish I could use my VA, but I already used it one time already. You can reuse the VA more than one time. That's a common misconception in our industry. And the last program I'm going to mention, there's others out there too, of course, but the most popular, is a USDA loan. Yes. And Carol, USDA is an acronym for United States Department of Agriculture loan. If you're deemed to be in a rural area and you fit the criteria, you can also qualify for 100% financing as well. And most of Delaware below the canal, with the exception of certain pockets in Middletown and Dover, are USDA qualifiable. So if we find someone that fits into that box, we can secure 100% financing for them as well.
Amazing. I would like to backtrack a little bit. Sure. What do you need to apply for a VA loan?
Nothing, not much more than you need to apply for any other loan, the W-2s and pay stubs and so forth. The only additional things with a veteran's loan is that you have to have what's known as a certificate of eligibility that's issued through the VA. Most veterans already have that in their possession, but if they don't, they can go on the VA's website and download a copy. And the second thing, Carol, that we would need on a VA loan is what's known as a DD-214 form, which shows your years of service, what branch of the military you were in, and so forth. So those are really the only two additional requirements in addition to what you would do for any other loan.
Now, VA, I know it's veterans, but can active military also apply?
It depends. Normally, yes. There's criteria, as there are with any loan, that you have to meet, but normally, yes. Not always, though. There's a vetting process that we have to go over with that client. There's a checklist of things that we have to complete. So I would say about 75% of the time, yes, but not always. That's situational. That's something we have to dig a little bit deeper on.
And aren't they also guaranteed a really aggressive interest rate?
Rates are really aggressive. We at Annie Mac Home Mortgage also offer incentives for veterans. So we waive our bank fee, with $9.95. Every bank's going to have a bank fee, whether they call it underwriting or processing. We all call it something different. But at the end of the day, it's money out of your pocket to get the loan done. We waive that not just for our veterans, but also our first responders as well, police, nurses and doctors, firefighters, and so forth. So you don't need to qualify for a VA loan to get that exemption if you are a first responder.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So anybody who missed that, you have $1,000 savings if you're a first responder, if you call them and you need a mortgage.
Yeah, every dollar adds up, and
it really does.
$1,000 really goes a long way. And we're happy to do it, obviously, because the first responders of the world are the ones that put their best foot forward and keep us all safe. And it doesn't go unnoticed, I can tell you that.
And I'll tell you what, I don't think any of our essential personnel have had a day off in 2 months.
I'm living that right now. My sister-in-law Rachel works in the hospital at Christiana, and every day she packs her lunch and she keeps a positive attitude, and she goes and works with a lot of sick people. And I'm just blown away when I see her commitment to her job. It really makes me feel good. And I have a lot of clients that are similar. Whether I work a lot with the police. A lot with the police, actually. In fact, I just did a Jeep ride as part of a club that I'm in for Lieutenant Ballard, who passed away 3 years ago. We do an annual ride by his widow's house and their kids just to show support. He was a gentleman that died in the line of fire at Wawa 3 years back.
I do remember that.
Yeah, so we just did the 3-year anniversary is about a month ago, sadly. And it's not lost upon me. I know it's not lost upon you, and it's something we strongly believe in. And I know we kind of segmented a little bit and went off on a tangent here, but it's something we really, really enjoy doing. So if you're a first responder, we would love to help you, and we can, waive that lender piece as well and save you some more money.
That's amazing. And you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that. If any first responders jump on, I will credit you the cost of the home inspection at settlement.
There you go.
I'll piggyback right on that. Absolutely.
Love it. And in fact, we try to get our realtor partners to get involved with that. I'm glad you're offering that up, because that's
absolutely. No problem. Yeah, because I agree. Actually, I'm part of Team First Day Properties, as you know, and we've been doing Hometown Heroes once a week. We have a tag on all of our Facebook pages. If you just tag somebody who's been working through this pandemic, a hometown hero, and it doesn't have to be just the first responders for this. It can be, because we actually one of the people tagged a daycare center who's been open through this whole thing, and they've been watching all the kids for the first responders. So everybody had a daycare they could use. So what we're doing is once a week, we're drawing a name from all the people who were tagged, and we're sending lunch to that facility. So jump on Carol with Remax, find me on Facebook, drop somebody you know in there, and we're doing a wheel once a week. We found this app, you put all the names in there and you hit a button and it spins it and picks a name random. So make it as fair as you can, right?
And I love it. I mean, I see that on your page. I see that on Chad's page and all the team members with First State Properties. And I've nominated a couple people, a couple police officers, one of which is a family member of mine that's in the Wilmington Police. And, you know, he hasn't
We
won.
hope they win.
Yeah, I think we might have to rig that system a little. No, I'm kidding.
No, we have to keep it fair.
But,
you know, the good thing is if you didn't win this week, you don't get pulled out of the drawing.
Right.
Will stay in there. So if you see every week the wheel's getting fuller because there's more names, because you never get taken out. If you're in, once you've been nominated, you're in there, and hopefully we'll get through all the names and everybody will get lunch. You know I can't necessarily speak for the whole team, but I think we all feel the same, that if we could buy them all lunch, we would. You know?
Exactly. I mean, you know, civil servants of our community is what really helps the world go around, so to speak. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not lost upon me or you or any of us out there. They're just such an integral part of our overall society and the safety of that society. So we're more than happy to do it. I'm glad that you mentioned the home inspection. And, you know, whenever I work with a first responder, I try to get my realtors on board with that. And the answer is always overwhelmingly yes, of course. So
of course.
We're more than willing to put our best foot forward and help you guys out.
And, you know, and we love that you're doing it for them too. I mean, you know, it's like we could go on about that for an hour. Like, but I mean, how else could I possibly say thank you? Right. You can't really put into words the gratitude you feel for somebody like cops. Oh, you mean you'll strap a vest on today and take a bullet so I don't have to?
Yeah.
Love you. Like, you'll run into that burning building to save me so I don't have to, because I'm chicken. Let's call it what it is. Like, I'm not trained. I'm not whatever it is. So yeah, there's something to be said for somebody with a heart of gold who can do that, man. Whew.
It couldn't be more true. And I see that personally. I have Wilmington Police within my family. I have a lot of military within both sides of my family, my wife and my family.
Right.
And, you know, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. So, you know, once again, we appreciate your service, whatever you're involved with, whether it's law enforcement or you know, health and safety, et cetera. That's something that we strongly support.
Right. Well, hey, man, I've really appreciated you coming in and sitting with me today. I'm going to hold you to that. In 3 months, we're doing this again, and we're going to see where this all landed.
I would love to. I love sharing knowledge, and I know you do too, Carol. And you know, I always tell folks that you're only going to buy a home 3 or 4 times in your entire life, and not something that we expect you to be an expert on. In fact, we expect you to be novice. And you know, one thing I tell all of my clients is there's no such thing as a bad question. I have clients sometimes that kind of clam up a little bit because they don't want to ask a silly question, so to speak. And there's no silly questions out there. We don't expect that you're going to have all the answers. That's our job, to educate you and you in the right direction. And you know, both Carol and I appreciate any and all questions, and anything we can do to kind of push that ball over the goal line and help you out, we're more than willing to do.
Absolutely. And we look forward to doing it. Like, this is what I do. Like, you know.
This is what I do too. And, you know, you can't fake passion. I always tell that. I manage our branch and I share that with our team members. And, you know, when you truly love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And, you know, when you're able to help somebody and happen to make a living doing it, I mean, what better feeling? I truly feel blessed to be involved in the financing side of the business. I'm sure you feel the same way at being a realtor. And it's such a rewarding profession because, as you know, Carol, we get to meet so many good people and all walks of life. And I think that's what my toes tapping, because no two situations are the same, and you never meet two people that are the same. I think that's what makes life fascinating for me. You know, there's no redundancy in our industry, and I love it. I've made really good friends in the industry that I still hang out today. So
every house is different. Every client is different. Every list of wants is different. You know, it's all different. And there's nothing better than getting to the finish line and watching them get the keys to their brand new home. That is the best feeling.
A whole champagne doesn't hurt either, right?
No, it doesn't. It sure does. Well, we're going to go ahead and say our farewells for the day. We really appreciate everybody watching. We hope you were able to take some information away today. Why don't you give everybody your phone number and how to contact you?
Sure. So it's Greg Clark, branch manager, Annie Mac Home Mortgage. My phone number is 302-561-4941. My Facebook page, where I post a lot of closings and industry-related articles, is Gregory Clark, GC at the end. And you can also look me up on Zillow as well.
If you do look him up on Zillow, by the way, you will please take note of the fact that he has 600 five-star reviews. And I'm Carol Fahy. I'm a member of Team First Aid Properties. My phone number is 302-217-3063. You can call or text if you're ready to get any answers to those questions you're looking for. We hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for watching.
Thanks again, guys.
Bye.